powers don't. Now, you have to understand what the rule of law is. And the rule of law just quite simply is the principle that before the state can take control over you personally, either to kill you or imprison you, or before the state can take your property, they have to be supervised by an independent court. That's the rule of law. And it's very easy to understand how important that is. I ask people, well, just let's go back with me in time to medieval times, where the state really was whoever lived in the closest castle, be that a noble or a king. We're in a feudal society, no rule of law. Well, guess what happened if, back then, if the state wanted to kill or imprison you? The soldiers just came out of the castle and did it. And if the state wanted your property, the soldiers just came out of the castle and took it. And I imagine that people learned when you were in that type of society and they came to take your property not to resist. Because, why would you resist? You'd just get killed, right? So, do you see how when you don't have the rule of law, it's very easy to imagine how a populace can become cowed? Because they can be destroyed by the state, just the state exercising its discretion. Now, if you go home and you pull out your dictionary and you flip to tyranny, the definition of tyranny, tyranny is just simply the ability of the state to act arbitrarily, to exercise its discretion without supervision. That's all tyranny is. It's just, in fact, but when somebody like me even says the word tyranny, we get a negative reaction. It's a pejorative word in our language. It's not meant to be. It's just meant to describe the state of affairs where government can act without supervision. But it's negative in our collective consciousness because we've learned through history that tyranny always ends badly. It never ends well. It can start well. It can start for altruistic reasons, but it never ends well. Now, with this new Consumer Product Safety Act, all that's happening is Health Canada is being given the power to take our property without court supervision. Now, this doesn't cover natural health products, but it covers every single consumer product out there other than, foods and drugs and automobiles and tobacco, basically. So basically, a Health Canada inspector could walk into a retail store or manufacturer or distributor and seize the building, seize the stock, never have to get a court order. They can move it and charge you. They can order you to move it and charge you for their time. They can order you not to move it. They can take control of your property. The minister now can order you to recall. And in fact, this one actually really gets under my skin because that's been the main talking point, the justification to the public of why we need this new law. As the Minister of Health, she stands up and she says, if there's a dangerous product on the market and the manufacturer will not recall, we don't have the power now. Health Canada doesn't have the power to order a recall. And that's misleading. It's not a lie. It's true. They don't have the power to order a recall because every prior parliament respected the rule of law. But it's misleading because it gives you the impression they don't have any power. Listen to it again. If there's a dangerous product on the market and the manufacturer won't recall, Health Canada doesn't have the power to order a recall, you think, oh, they don't have the power to do anything. They can't protect us. That's the message. That's why they keep saying it. But I've already outlined to you 3 things they could do, and those are just the ones that came to my mind quickly when I was preparing the lecture. Injunction, seizure under a search warrant, ministerial order under the Hazardous Products Act, but all of those adhere to the rule of law. The first 2 are court orders. The last one, the ministerial order under the Hazardous Products Act, it only lasts 14 days unless Cabinet confirms it. It has to be tabled in Parliament so it's public. And if Cabinet does confirm it, then you can appeal to a review board with court-like powers, rule of law. But now the minister could order, a company selling white table rice that doesn't want to be destroyed, that if Health Canada actually wants to push the issue, wants a court to fairly adjudicate, well, that doesn't have to be done anymore. Health Canada can just come out and issue a binding order without ever going to court. Does that sound like a good thing? I mean, it's the main talking point because it's misleading. The law of trespass is basically abolished except for your house. So they can come onto any of your private property, your yard, your garage, your sheds, any commercial premises, anywhere but your house without a warrant, and you can't tell them to leave. which is absolutely astounding. I mean, we so value our right to have private enjoyment of our property that if the police are on your property investigating a murder or a serious terrorist plot and you tell the police to leave, they got to go. If they don't have a warrant or there's not special circumstances like they're in hot pursuit, they got to go, or they can be charged criminally, or you could sue them civilly. But all of a sudden, consumer products such as this are so dangerous that Health Canada is exempted from the law of trespass, and you can tell them to leave your property, and they don't have to leave. And the icing on the cake is all of this can happen in secrecy. See, when you become a complicated society like ours, we get a lot of federal acts, and they give people and they give boards and tribunals order-making powers. But we realize to be a liberal democracy, to have freedom, we have to see how order-making power is being exercised. So we passed the Statutory Instruments Act. So every time a federal order is made, it has to be tabled with the clerk and it's published in the Canada Gazette. So everyone can see how it's being exercised. And a committee looks at the orders and they ask just one question. They ask, does this order go too far in encroaching upon our rights found in the Bill of Rights or the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Now, it's easy to see how that acts as a protection for us, isn't it? First of all, they're public, and second of all, they're reviewed by this committee. Well, things like these recall orders, guess what? They're exempted from the Statutory Instruments Act. So isn't that interesting? We're actually undermining the rule of law in a large area of our economy, consumer products, and we're doing it in secrecy. It's quite something, isn't it? I know it makes me feel very safe. So, and how would this play out? Now, let's use this. It's just better if I hold the bear. So let's use this as an example. So we know that Health Canada views this as such a significant risk. They want everyone ever sold taken off the market. But under the old law that they're still operating under, all they could do is demand a recall. They couldn't order a recall. But under the new law, and I can tell you all I did is I sat back and I said, well, I'm a Health Canada inspector. I know I want every one of these off the market. What would I do under the new law? And what I would do is this. I would show up at their place of business at about 2 in the afternoon on day one. I'd pick that time because I'm most likely to have all of the decision makers there. I mean, the owner, the managers. I want everyone who's a decision maker there. And I'm going to issue them a ministerial order ordering the recall of every one of these sold for 13 years and ordering them to advertise for 2 full months, full-page ads in the Globe and Mail and the National Post. Because otherwise the recall is meaningless unless people know about it, right? And I'm going to serve that on the managers. It's a binding order. It's not a court order. I don't have to go to court now for such things. Now, you're in their shoes. What are you going to do? You're going to phone your lawyer because you know that this order is going to destroy your business. It's going to be bankrupted. Your employees that have worked for years and years for you, they're going to be without work. You're going to be bankrupted. So you phone your lawyer. But I know because I'm a lawyer, usually you can't get hold of your lawyer when you need to. We go to court, we have meetings. Sometimes, honest truth is, you just have so many of these fires, you can't get to all of them. So they don't get to talk to their lawyer on day one, but they're in a panic. So what do? They stop selling. So they're not filling new orders, but understand they're not following the recall order. Now, this new law says every day you do not follow an order, every term of an order, it's a separate offense. So they've committed 2 offenses, okay? Every decision maker has now committed 2 offenses. Day 2, they get to talk to their lawyer, and I know darn well what the lawyer says when the lawyer hears what's happening. I don't know. I incorporate, I draft contracts. I don't know consumer safety law. I'll find somebody who does, or I'll do some research. Give me a couple of days. That's what's going to happen 98% of the time. So this company's in a bind. They don't know what to do. So they start a partial recall on day 2. They phone the stores and they say, we have a problem. Can you start sending us back our stock and we'll try and take care of the problem we have. Now, day 3, I'm a Health Canada inspector. I'm angry because Canadians are at risk, okay? And my job is to protect them. So I show up on day 3, I seize their building and I change the locks. I seize their stock. Now I move their stock because I don't want to post a guard out there at night.